Hello everybody, Cone Dodger here. Welcome back to Automation. I have returned from my trip to Road Atlanta, working with the Spec Miata team, Attack Motorsports. Now that I've gotten my racing fix out of my system, I'm ready to get back into automation and build some motors. First things first though, I've got to correct a mistake I made in the last video. Which was the 7M GE, 7M GTE, and the, where are you, 1.8 BP. Only a couple people noticed the mistake, but, well, it's obvious enough and makes enough of an impact that I feel the need to go back and revise these. It didn't change the year off 2013, so these motors were built with 2013 quote-unquote technology when they should have been built with 90s technology. So let me just go ahead and take this back down to this one. I'm going to say 98, 96, 98, 96, 98. They kept making them pretty late into the 90s. They still make this is 1.8. Yeah, they still made the 1.8 then. Okay. So our previous numbers were 128 and 125. Let's see what that does to it. I got a lot of experience with this motor now. Actually, the motor's been great in our Spec Miata. We haven't messed with it too much, but spent a lot of time under the suspension of the Miata this weekend. So down to 125 and 121. 4 horsepower reduction and bottom end issues as I expected, which means I'll have to bump that quality up just a hair. And I'm going to do that for the fuel system as well to get some of that power back. There's been quite a little debate going on in the comments and on the forums about the quality sliders. And I'm sticking with my viewpoint of the quality slider is there as in the middle. It's an average of your ordinary engine. Anything above that is the manufacturer putting more effort into it to make it a more high performance engine, or longer lasting engine, or more efficient engine, or whatever their goal is. So I don't have any problems bumping these up a little bit, but I'm trying not to rely on them necessarily. Protective pistons. That was another thing that I read that they were using. I'd like to get back up to that, like at least 126 maybe horsepower. Bingo! It's like I knew what I was doing. Certainly don't though. Okay. So I've got this one fixed. Save. Yes, I'd like to replace it. And moving on to the 7M GE. Let's see, 205 and 201. I'm gonna bring this one back pretty far. 90. Let's make sure we're not getting rid of anything that we needed. 95 sounds good. I think this is going to have a pretty large impact, but I was actually making a little bit more power with this motor than required. Yep, those numbers look pretty consistent. Again with the bottom end issues though, so bumping up here on quality and a little bit on the fuel system. Doesn't seem to have a huge effect on the fuel system, the year that is, but it seems to have a huge effect on the bottom end parts, which kind of confusing to me. I don't expect that. No real increase in numbers. I'd like to keep the cost around that though. 51,000 on the mean time between failures. That's not great. RPM limit. I don't know what it is with that RPM limit. It's got to be something in the connecting rods, but as far as I can tell, they were just using regular steel connecting rods, and I can only imagine that's what cast would be considered. So don't know what to do with that. I have the timing pretty low on this one. Half a time, let me skip through the dyno run there. Nope, not gonna get that bottom end to work, I don't believe, so oops, that's not what I wanted. I'm just gonna save it as that for now, because it's more in line with reality. Same for the turbo version, which I imagine is going to suffer greatly, but I was making way more power than necessary with this motor, so it shouldn't be that bad. Go with 95 again. So if I lose 10 horsepower in this one, I'm going to be fine with it. And I probably will. 222. Is that about 10? Yep, that's exactly 10. So, let me get the bottom. Let's see, it was doing 63,000. Let's see if we can get that back up to about that rating. Skip that. Yeah, 53. So that's pretty close. And save this one. So there we go. Fixed those up. Got them more consistent with the rest of the motors in the series. This is the 90s Japanese motor recreation mini-series I'm doing here, so I want to keep it consistent as far as that goes, and that does have an effect on the future of what I want to do with automation. Eventually, once it gets fully built, I'd like to build my own car company as if it was based in the 90s, and I want to have a catalog of engines from the 90s to compare my engines to, so I know basically what my competition would be. But that is a long ways in the future. But for this episode, I have two new engines I'd like to do, and I mentioned last time they are V8s, and those are the VH45DE, a Nissan motor / Infiniti, and a 1UZ-FE, a Toyota / Lexus motor. We're going to start out with my native Nissans. So V8, something we haven't been able to do yet. Sadly no V6 yet, so still waiting on that. A ton of V6s to build. This motor, it is an aluminum blocked V8, which is very cool, and is one of the reasons I'm doing this motor. It should have been in my 240 episodes, because this has become a pretty popular motor to swap into them. With the popularity of these V8 swaps into Sylvia chassis, it's cool to keep a Nissan motor in it and not just go with the common easy route with an LS1, and go with something a little bit more high-tech and creative in Nissan's V8. And what we have here is a 93. Okay. Why I struggle with that stupid thing so much. Oh, don't let me forget. 19. I'm gonna go with 98 on this one, because it's actually a late 90s motor. I say 98. I go with 97. So 98. And by 82.7. So we got a really short stroke motor. We have a forged steel crank and forged steel connecting rods. So I'm going to go with forged H-beam because it says the word forged in it. If that's not correct, please let me know. But the information I found on it, for some reason this motor has a ton of great information on it. Forged H-beams, what is that? Or sorry, just forged steel connecting rods. Hybrid Tactic cast pistons, all looking nice and shiny there. Let's go ahead and build our top end. It is unlike those American V8 muscle car engines. Dual overhead cam, 4 valves per cylinder, aluminum heads, a fairly high 10.2 to 1 compression, normal cam profile. Interesting story about the VVT. When they initially built these motors, they built them without VVT. That was only because of the gentleman's agreement throughout the Japanese manufacturers in this era to not make an engine with more than 278 horsepower. So without VVT, it makes less than 278 horsepower. But they actually equipped VVT on the engines they put in the cars, so they make a little bit north of that. So we're going to put VVT on the intake cams, and no variable valve lift. Aesthetically, it's one of those buried motors. It kind of looks like that, but with just a normal silver cover. There we go. It has this bizarre, huge intake manifold that basically just baffles the whole engine, and you can't hardly even see it. But moving on, naturally aspirated, of course, injection with a multi-point. So yeah, it doesn't look exactly like this. It looks crazy. That's the best way I could describe it. It is a single throttle body motor. We'll say standard intake. That does a good job of hiding it. Runs on regular unleaded. Say a fairly rich mixture, but not too crazy. Keep base timing there. And a 6,900 RPM limit. Exhaust had short cast headers. No, I think it actually did have a single exhaust, but we'll say it was a 2 3/4 inch exhaust, which is unheard of. I don't know if I've ever seen a 2 3/4 inch exhaust, but it works for our limits. 3-way cat. We'll go with this straight through and reverse flow. And here we go. We are looking for, with VTC, supposedly dyno numbers have shown that these stock motors are putting 310 foot-pounds, 310 horsepower and 330 foot-pounds down. The actual SAE numbers were 278 at 6,000 and 292 foot-pounds at 4,000. So we'll see where we land. Looks like we're gonna land pretty far south of both of those. Very interesting. What do we have here? Knocking. That would reduce power. Okay, so I need to richen it up a little bit. And let's see. Lower AKI with more timing. Okay, that will work. Let's try that out. Nope. Nope, I think that made it worse. Let's just skip that. What's happening here? Yeah, it did make it worse. It does say lower AKI, right? No, other way around. Oops. There we go. It looks a little better. Good sounding engine, it is. I've heard a few 240s with this motor in them. Very aggressive sounding motor. And these numbers definitely look right as far as the additional numbers I've heard, not the stock numbers. And it does make sense. This size V8 engine shouldn't be making 270 horsepower, so especially with VVT on there. So I think we'll stick with those numbers. Looks like we're still a little bit on the lean side. Need a little more fuel, maybe a little less time. That should get us in a safe range. I think we're probably going to hit 330 foot-pounds here. Climbing, it's climbing. No, not quite. Maybe pretty high on power though. 304. Sounds good. It's coming in at about the right ranges, so yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Oh, now it's running rich. Interesting. Let me back this down and back that down. How can we solve that? A little bit more cam to lower the AKI. Just gonna make that power come on a little later, but that's not a terrible thing. Should be running a lot cleaner now. 313 horsepower. Very nice. We got something reaching an RPM limit. Let's see. Both of these are average. Let's just try the quality first. Oh, that took care of that. Easy enough. A pretty expensive motor, but 1100. It's not terrible. The man hours are pretty high. You can see when you turn up the quality, it turns up the man hours here significantly, which makes the cost exorbitantly more. But you gotta work with what you have. So I'm pretty pleased with that, and I'm gonna stick with that. So this is the VH45DE. Save. I gotta get a good look at this thing run. I love the way a dual overhead cam V8 looks. It just looks like so much chaos going on in there. I like it. Okay. Moving on to another V8. This time of the Toyota lot. Again with an aluminum block. This one, it's the 1UZ-FE, and it's actually found in the Lexus SC400 or the Toyota Soar. It wasn't that popular of a car when it was made, but it's becoming more popular now. Especially with drifting scene getting how it is, and people looking for, you know, rarer cars, something to be unique. And these are starting to get more popular. This motor was a feature of those. It was also featured in the Toyota MR2 race car in the Super GT series, and it made its way into the early Daytona prototypes when Toyota was still backing that program. So a very well used engine in the very late 90s, but it's still a 90s motor. So let's do that. We'll say 99. Let's see, it is 87.5 by 82.5. That is just under 4 liters. It has steel crank and connecting rods, hyper-eutectic cast pistons, dual overhead cam with 4 valves per cylinder. Sound a little familiar. Aluminum heads, and this is the later version that I'm building, the latest version of the 90s, 10.5 to 1 compression. Same normal cam, VVT on the intake, no VVL, and that kind of Toyota signature look there. I'm gonna go with white. Naturally aspirated, multi-point injected, standard intake. looks really similar to that VH45. Very similar engines. Regular unleaded. Go with this and a little bit of this. Let's see, rev limit. I did not find that information. Let me do a little research. Okay, so 6,300 RPM. So a little bit higher than the VH was. Is it? Yeah, I think it is. I've already forgotten. From what I saw, they were pretty much tubular headers, so I'm going to go with that. But it's again a single exhaust, and we'll go with that. 2 3/4, 3-way cats, and straight through reverse flow. So this motor, a little bit smaller, but produces about the same horsepower. And it does that through a little bit more RPM, a little bit more high tech. The VVTi system was a little bit more advanced, I believe, than Nissan's. That's just hearsay, though. But we're shooting for 300 horsepower and 310 foot-pounds of torque. I think I might be running into some fuel issues. That's awfully high compression. These numbers kind of suggest that as well, and the efficiency. Let's see. 88, yep, just a little bit. No bottom end issues, that's nice. Okay, so we'll take that down, take that up. Give it a little bit more fuel. Oh, that's what I forgot. This motor was running on premium. That should fix a lot of things. At least I assume they all were. I've ridden in an SC400 and they said premium, so I'm going to take their word for that. Let's see, 276, 274. That is a little bit low. So I've got some work to do there. But I can bring this timing back now. And maybe a little bit more cam profile. Oh, we got 300 on the chart. That's a good sign. So with that bottom end working out, this could be a much cheaper engine. 302. A little low on torque, but great on horsepower. Those numbers that I got are not great though. They're not. They didn't seem extremely accurate. I didn't find any good dyno charts or anything like that. So a little bit of wiggle room there. Good sounding motor though. Nothing like a V8, a cross-plane V8, even on a single exhaust like this. Everything's working just fine. So there we have it. We're gonna call this one the 1UZ-FE. Save. And that will do it for this episode. Finally, some V8s into this list. So a lot of inline 4s, inline 6s, but looks like we've bracketed the list with a couple V8s. Very cool. One little bit of automation news. Guys posted on Facebook the other day that they have announced a release date for a technical demo, somewhat like this, somewhat like the demo or what they have here for the engine designer. They have something in the works for that for the car designer studio. And that will be released on July 30th. So very much so looking forward to that. I guarantee you I'll be doing videos on it. And if you haven't pre-ordered, if you haven't gone on Steam to greenlight the game, please go do both of those. It will only help them out more, and check it out when that or the car designer studio comes out. That is going to be really cool. But until next time, my name is Cone Dodger, and thanks for watching.